There is a certain elderly lady who claims to intimately know the Odinga family. Uh, I can't answer everything. I think I'm only qualified to comment on one thing. The allegation that Winnie is not the biological child of Raila Oginga Odinga. I will just answer that one question. Any other she commented or anything? Some of the things she commented are things that I don't know. Maybe you even know more than I do. But I'll only comment on what I know from my official capacity. This is how, it is a long story before I reach to, okay, for those of you who are eager to know, Winnie, whether she resembles Raila or not, Winnie is Raila's biological child. And Winnie, if you look at Raila's age mate, Winnie is very young. These are, people generally, people generally. Okay, we have Oburu who even married, but let us not talk about that. Let me just say that age-wise, there is a certain age that people don't get kids. They start looking for grandchildren. So if you look at Winnie's age, it is an age that in an ordinary family, you'd have expected the couple, that is Raila and Ida, not to be having kids, but they had a kid, Winnie. And this is the purpose of my recording. But I just told you that because I know some of you are eager to get the answer. But if I start talking, if the answer is in Y and I start ABCD, some of you would be very eager to find that whatever. So I've talked that, then let me start by A, so that when I reach Y, you already know the answer. Raila, when he was detained, some of you were born when we don't have detention. In Kenya prison, we had two types, is it three? Or let me say, during those days, we had four types of cellmates. The first type of cellmates are people in police cells. The second type of cellmates were people in remand awaiting trial. The third type of inmate were people who were sentenced and they were serving their sentence. Those three are there today. We have people in the police cells, we have people in remand awaiting the case, and we had convicts who are serving their term. But during our time, there was a group that was called Detention Without Trial. Detention without trial. These are the people whom we have something that is called habeas corpus in law. Habeas corpus in law. Habeas corpus is a Latin word saying produce the body. Produce the body. That is what we have today, where the Inspector General of Police and the Director of DCI have both been asked to produce Mwende Bijiwe, whether they can produce him alive or produce his body. That is, produce his body, whether that body is breathing in and out oxygen, or it stopped breathing and the heart stopped some time ago, just to produce the physical body, dead or alive. So whenever somebody would be arrested, relatives or even friends would go and apply for habeas corpus. And when they applied for habeas corpus, instead of the then commissioner of police producing the person, the commissioner of police or even the AG, by those days AG was the director, the AG did what the AG does today, and he doubled up as a director of public prosecution. So the AG, in his capacity as director of public prosecution, would produce a gazette, Kenya Gazette, which would say that in this case, Raila, in this case, Anyang' Nyong'o, in this case, Haminwa, in this case, Matiba, in this case, very many cases. They would produce a gazette notice to the court, which says that Raila Amolo Odinga has been detained without trial by the Kenya Gazette number this, and then they would produce that. Now, what was the difference between detention without trial and a normal inmate? Let me not talk much about the treatment inside there, because most of them used to be detained like they would only see sun, let's say, half an hour per day or something like that, just like capital offenders. But I want to talk about the trial area, the jailing area. An ordinary inmate is charged with ABCD. On such and such a day, at such and such a place within the Republic of Kenya, you, together with others not before court, you did this and this, and you have been sentenced. So in fact, in some countries, not Kenya, in some countries, on your cloth at the chest, used to have something written, your name, day of jailing, and the day you'll be expected to be released on your chest. That is other countries. If you are jailed, but in Kenya, even today, if you are jailed for a period, you'll be told now you have been jailed for so long. So you know from that time that you have been jailed for so many days, so many weeks, or so many months, or so many years. So you'd just look around, okay, this is 2025, yeah. Okay, I'm remaining with so many, I'm remaining with this long time to go to freedom. They call it kwenda raia. They wait for, they know that they'll go for so long. And then, most importantly, you are given a period of appeal. All the cases I've had, you are given 2 weeks of appeal. I don't know whether there is any case where you have more or less days, but in Kenyan courts, all the cases I've ever heard of, you are given 14 days right of appeal. But in detention without trial, you are not given a right of appeal. You are not given right of appeal, and you do not know when you will be released. Now, when you are released is when the government decides. There are those days when the officer in charge of the prison that you are in would not even know that next week you'll be a free man or a free lady. That is the differences between between the other detention and the detention without trial. Now, Raila used to receive very many treatments. He used to be given some very inhuman treatment in some places, but in other places he used to get preferential treatment. When I said that, people blasted me. When I said that, people blasted me. Raila used to get differential treatment in KAMITI. I will mention them because I used to mention when he was alive. But for some reasons, Raila used to fear Manyani. When detainees used to be transferred, you spent here, you spent here. But whenever Raila would be told he was going to Manyani, he got the scare of his life. Some people are asking me, why is KAMITI not the same as Manyani and whatever? To me, what is important is telling the truth. Trying to justify or anything, after I have said the truth, it is up to or after I have said the truth and nobody disputes it, or it is confirmed by somebody else, then you should look for people who used to work in prison that time or even in the judicial system to now explain. Raila got preferential treatment in the KAMITI, including confidential sessions with his spouse. Raila used to get preferential treatment in prison to an extent that it is him who hinted that Matiba is seriously sick and a whistle should be blown. And even when people were castigating me for saying that, the following week, ODM had a very big meeting in Voi, and a former prison warder called John somebody was introduced by Raila to the crowd, and there was an abrupt harambe where that prison warder called John was given a lot of money until Sifuna said that a bouncer will escort him out of that place because in Kenya you are given a lot of money in a public place, you are mugged. So a week after I said about KAMITI, Raila confirmed himself in Voi. Now let us go to the question of Winnie's father. Leave alone these things about look-alike and what. Among the Luhyas, we have believed that a woman can give birth to a child out of the wedlock, and there is a way she does it that child resembles you. That is among Luhyas. So I don't know whether Luos also have that. But Winnie is Raila's kid. And if Raila would not have been detained, Winnie would not be born. Why was what I mostly think that if Raila would not have been detained, the idea of getting Winnie would not have been there. But I'll come to that. Now, mistreatment. I said there was a way one would alternate from preferential treatment to very inhuman treatment. You saw when Raila was alive that one of his eyes would shed tears uncontrollably. A lot of people say there that he got that problem in staying in a place where there was no light throughout. I would rather people who like he himself, when he was alive, it would have been better if he would have talked about it. But he said that he will talk about that when he has retired from politics. I want to say this. Having being in the light throughout did not cause his eye. In fact, if you ask those people who are in detention or even capital offense, you get used to sleeping with the lights on. Or alternatively, when you want to sleep, you cover yourself with a blanket. That one has answered that. Raila's eye was in Nyayo house. Raila's eye was in Nyayo house, where he was told, tembea kama ng'ombe. Then he crossed like a baby. Was told, toa mlio wa ng'ombe. He said, more, more. Then he said, he was kicked. Ng'ombe hii, ng'ombe gani na liaga namna hiyo. That is his eye. But Raila and Anyang' Nyong'o, among other people, were mistreated in a certain way that in Kikuyu we call it kuhakorwa. The same treatment Jomo Kenyatta had. This is what the problem we have. You suffer in a certain way, people choose you to be the president because you suffered in a certain way. You'll understand and make sure no other person in prison will suffer the same way. What do? You still retain that thing. So, Jomo Kenyatta was treated that way while in prison. And when Jomo Kenyatta became independent, when Kenya became independent, there were so many rumors. There were even some rumors that Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, among others, is not Jomo Kenyatta's son. And the reason that was being given was that Jomo Kenyatta was hakorward in prison. But Jomo Kenyatta used to say, let me repeat what he used to say, watu wengine wanasema ati mimi nilihakorwa. Waulize Mama Ngina. So there was rumors that Jomo Kenyatta was hakorward. But even if you look at Uhuru today, he resembles Jomo kabisa kabisa. And somebody would ask me, why is it that Uhuru was born in August? Was it August? Yeah, August 1961. When Jomo Kenyatta was released in July. Jomo Kenyatta, when he was in Samburu, Mararal, he was under house arrest. So he had a house which was guarded, and it was like a house arrest, and he had his family there. In fact, if you go to Mararal, you'll find in the visitor's book, Uhuru Kenyatta has written, this is the house that I was conceived. And so Uhuru Kenyatta was born at Aga Khan Hospital, Parklands, in August 1961. Now that is Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. That is Jomo Kenyatta. The treatment that Raila and Anyang' Nyong'o received in prison, they both believed that they had been hakorward. They both believed that they had been hakorward. Anyang' Nyong'o has a daughter. Actually, Anyang' Nyong'o has publicly said it, and even the daughter of Anyang' Nyong'o knows. Anyang' Nyong'o, when he came out of detention, Anyang' Nyong'o he himself was not sure about himself. He thought that he had been hakorward. So that is why Anyang' Nyong'o and his spouse decided to have a child who became a girl. On the same voice, On the same point, Raila, when he came out of detention, he thought that he had been Hakorod. He thought that he had been Hakorod, and that is why he asked, they discussed. Now, mambo ya watu wawili huwezi jua. I don't know whether he ordered Ida or whether he said, but then it was his idea that even though we are getting old, but I think my magazine, they have replaced the bullets. Instead of having live ammunition, they have replaced my bullets with blanks. I'm suspecting they are blanks. So that is how the idea came. Now lastly, there is something I had recorded on which I said that how Raila's children were named. How Raila's children were named. And I categorically said that it is Jaramogi who decided each child's name. Mama Ida corrected me. She said she gave a very detailed way on how the kids were born. And she did not even need to prove me wrong, because she just needed to say it is Raila who named the kids. But she did us, including especially me, a favor of explaining how each and every child's name was given. Winnie Mandela was Winnie Odinga was born at a time when Nelson Mandela was released. So they decided that if the child was to be a boy, he was to be called Nelson Mandela. But if the child was to be a girl, she would be named Winnie Mandela. That is why Winnie was given that name. Another thing she explained, Rosemary Odinga. Raila's mother was called Mary, and Ida's mother was called Rose. So she was named after her two grandmothers, maternal grandmother and paternal grandmother. One was called Rose, another one was called Mary. So she was called Rosemary. Raila Jr., I said that Jaramogi loved his grandfather. Jaramogi's grandfather, Jaramogi was called Oginga. Jaramogi was called Oginga. And the father to Jaramogi was called Odinga. And then Odinga was a son of Raila original. Was the son of Raila original. Now, the original Raila was the grandfather to Jaramogi. Jaramogi named Agwambo after his grandfather. According to what I had recorded, it is on my channel, I said that Jaramogi loved his grandfather so much that he told Raila to name another child after his grandfather. So, but Ida Odinga corrected me by saying that Raila had another cousin also called Raila. So when this cousin died, if the other cousin who was also Raila's best friend, if he would have been called Omolo, then Junior would have been called Omolo. So Junior is not named after Agwambo. Junior was named after a cousin to Agwambo who was a dear friend to Agwambo. But since he has the same name like his father, that is how it is. Fidel Castro, there was a revolutionary in Cuba who became the president. Actually, even when Fidel Castro died, the international news picked that story and ran it over the international news and said the president of Cuba has died. But Cuba answered by saying that President Fidel Castro is alive, retired President Fidel Castro is alive, but the person who had died is a son of a politician, of a Kenyan politician. To me, I did not like it that because Raila really liked Fidel, and when the son died, Cuban government should have even sent condolences. But anyway, I have clarified a lot for today, and I think my explanation is very clear. Those who want to say what they want to say, let them say.